Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today is a very exciting video for me because I get to talk about all of my favourite books from 2022. Now, I read 150 books last year and I rated 28 of them 5 stars. A lot of them were rereads though, so I'm only going to count the new 5-star reads for this year. So I've managed to narrow it down to 21 books that were like my favourite of all year, and I will say that some of them I loved even more than others, so I will talk about that as we go through the video. Bella's got a squeaky toy and it's so loud. We have a range of genres. We've got fantasy, romance, horror. We've got a thriller, murder mystery in there, which is very unusual. Graphic novels, just all good stuff. So yeah, we've got a lot of books to talk about. Let's just dive in and talk about some fantastic reads of 2022. Before I start this video though, I have something extremely exciting to show you guys. I got an Oodie! I've been wanting one of these for so long, and I got the panda one. Look how cute it is. So yeah, I finally got an Oodie. I was so excited, and I've had it for a week and I haven't tried it on yet, purely because I wanted to try it on during this video. So I'm gonna put it on. I'm so excited. It is literally the softest thing I own. So I'll be right back. Look how amazing this is. It's even got a big pocket. I could fit so many books in here. Ooh. Ah. I love it so much. Okay, this is literally the best thing I own. Oh my god, it's so big and comfy. I'm going to put this blanket on me though because it's white and I have a spaniel. So we'll see how long it lasts. Definitely did not make the right colour decision. I'm going to spend all of my time reading in this. Literally for the rest of winter, this is what I'm wearing. I'm not taking off, I refuse. I look sufficiently comfy and cozy. So yeah, this is very kindly sent to me by the Oodie team to show you guys, and I do actually have a code for you to get £35 off your first Oodie purchase, which is literally half price, which is amazing. My code is Amy's Book Nook 35. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. So if you use the code Amy's Book Nook 35, you'll get £35 off. Yeah, if you guys want to get an Oodie, this is like, it's literally the warmest, coziest, comfiest thing I'd literally own now, and I will not be wearing it anything else until the end of winter. Then yeah, if you go on the Oodie website, you can get £35 off with Amy's Book Nook 35. So, books. Let's talk about books. I think I might start with romance first. Now, I have 2 pure romance books, and then I have a few, I say fantasy romance, but they're not the main storyline in the fantasy books. So yeah, we'll start with romance just because it's literally the top of my pile here. The first one I'm going to mention is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I loved this. This was such a fun read. I loved the banter, I loved the characters. The romance was just delicious. It was just so heartwarming. There were like so many sections of the book where I was just like reading it like this, just like a big cheesy grin on my face, smiling. Ugh, I loved it. I definitely preferred this way more to The Love Hypothesis. I did read The Love Hypothesis last year as well, and I gave that 4 out of 5, but this was a 5 out of 5. It was beautiful. I loved it. I loved both the characters. I loved the romance. I even tabbed it, and I don't tab that often, so yeah, I love this book. So good. And then my second romance, which I preferred this to Love on the Brain. This was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Oh my gosh, did I love this book. Again, I tabbed this one as well. I don't know if I've already spoken about this on my channel. I probably have at some point, just like a wrap up of the books, but I love this. I love this so much. I think the reason that I loved this so much was that it wasn't just a romance. It was more like the main character Nora. It was her coming to terms with a lot of difficult things going on in her life, and it was just her journey through exploring those difficult chapters and how she got through them, and it was just so beautiful, The writing was stunning, and it was so witty as well. The banter between Nora and, I want to say Charlie. Yeah. The banter between Nora and Charlie was just perfect. Loved it. So, yeah, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. My favourite romance book of the year. But then it was Love on the Brain next. But yeah, those two romances, perfect. I would 100% recommend these two. I think I want to talk about fantasy next because I think it's my biggest pile of books. So the next book is A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft. This was beautiful. Oh my gosh, this was so stunning. Just the writing, it was like poetry almost. Just the way that Alison Saft described the world. It was a perfect grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers story. It was perfectly gothic as well. I love both characters. They were so deep, and both individually were beautiful characters to follow, but them coming together and learning to trust one another, it was just so gorgeous. It follows a story of a fox hunt, but it's not a real fox. It was like a god in a fox form. And whenever the hala, which is what the fox is called, whenever it comes to a certain town, they do a fox hunt. Yeah, these two team together because you need a hunter and you need an apothecary because it's a god, basically. So these two come together, they become a team to enter in this hunting competition, and it was just so beautiful. Like, the hunt was almost, it was background story compared to the character development, and just such bittersweet moments between both the main characters. I loved it. I loved this book. It was beautiful. 5 out of 5. Phenomenal. And then another book that I received as an ARC, I got An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan. This was stunning. So it is a cross between like Romeo and Juliet crossed with Chinese mythology. So beautiful. Again, the writing was just like poetry. It was so gorgeous. And I wasn't familiar with the Chinese mythology behind the story, so the ending was just so far-fetched to me, but beautiful, but I just did not see it coming at all. And yeah, it just blew me away. The ending to this completely blew me away. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was just so beautiful. Yeah, Romeo and Juliet crossed with Chinese mythology. So An Arrow to the Moon would definitely, 5 out of 5, would recommend. And then the next one is a very short read, but still fantastic. Do not let the fact that it is short put you off, or maybe it'll make you want to read it more. This was Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. A beautiful, short fantasy story about an ancient god of the forest. Not ancient, but hundreds of years old. And a man that comes to the forest to study him. A romance blooms, and it's just so beautiful and heartwarming. And it is, again, the perfect grumpy sunshine romance, but also crossed with fantasy. And, it was just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. This is a duology. Yeah, the second one is called Drowned Country, and I did love that, but just not as much as Silver in the Wood. The first one was definitely incredible. And it's a very short read, so, you know, it's not a big thing to take on, and I will definitely be rereading this in the future. It's literally only 100 pages. So nice and easy, but it's just so full. Those 100 pages are so full of just beauty. It was gorgeous. Absolutely lovely. So yeah, Silver in the Wood, 100% would recommend. Stunning. And then another short book was Every Heart a Doorway. Oh my god, this book was so beautiful. I did not know what to expect at all, but I read this in one sitting. And yeah, it's not a huge book, but for me to just sit still and read constantly is unheard of. Like, it was so beautiful. So yeah, Every Heart a Doorway, and basically it is a portal fantasy about a boarding school of children that have come back from being portaled to another world full of magic. And there are loads of different multiple universes, multiple worlds, and these children, for one reason or another, have found their way back to Earth through portals, whether they wanted to or didn't. And because they have spent so long out of Earth and out into these magical worlds, they basically have to go into this boarding school to remember how to live on Earth, if that makes sense. But it's just so beautiful hearing about all the different worlds that they've been in, and the characters are all so lovely, and it was just gorgeous, just beautiful. And this is like a 12-book series, so I'm definitely going to be picking up more of them. But I did not expect to like this as much as I did, and I absolutely loved it. So magical, so heartwarming as well. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. Beautiful. I read, can't see it because it's behind Hellbent and Ninth House, but I read the King of Scars duology, and Rule of Wolves was definitely a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved this book. It was a fantastic conclusion to the duology, really epic, just an all-round great fantasy duology. I definitely think the King of Scars duology was my favourite series from Leigh Bardugo. I've enjoyed them all, but King of Scars and Rule of Wolves was, I think, my favourite. Absolutely loved it. So epic, just brilliant. And yeah, look at that cover. So yeah, Rule of Wolves. Amazing. I also read, this was a favourite, gorgeous. These are all Fairy Loot books now, by the way. I read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by xoxo, and oh my gosh, did I love this book so much. And look at that. So this is, again, another East Asian mythology retelling, and it's about a girl who takes the place of her brother's beloved and is sacrificed to the sea god. She jumps in and takes her brother's beloved's place and is sacrificed to the sea god, and she literally goes into the sea, down into a world under the water which is full of demons and spirits and gods, and it was just so beautiful. Oh my god, I just want to go. I want to go here. The writing was so beautifully descriptive, the characters amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much. I think this is one of my top favourites of the year. Hands down. I just love this so much. So The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. Beautiful. Just one of my, this was definitely up there with my absolute favourites of the year. Then I also loved Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. Beautiful. I did just recently get the Fairy Loot edition of the second in the series, which is The Dragon's Promise, and I have not read that yet. That is very high up on my list to read, but yes, I did read Six Crimson Cranes and I absolutely loved it. This is about a young princess and her 6 brothers are turned into cranes, which you can see on the cover, and she has to save said brothers and the world, basically, from an evil person. I'm really trying not to give too much away, but this is a YA fantasy duology, just beautiful, and I cannot wait to read The Dragon's Promise. But that was excellent. And then another excellent Fairy Loot book was Her Majestys Royal Coven by Junie Dawson. This was, I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't what I read. But what I read was so much better than what I expected. Does that make sense? This was fantastic. This was such a fantastic book. It left you on such a cliffhanger that I swear if I do not get the second in this series soon, well, I'm not really going to do anything, but I'm just going to be pretty upset, you know? Like, I need it. It was so good. It's about, literally, Her Majesty's Royal Coven. In this world, there are witches, and it's like the Ministry for Magic from Harry Potter, but as if it was part of the UK government. It's just so good. Oh my god, I loved it. I loved all the characters, the plot twists, the turns. It was so good. And it has transgender representation as well in here, which, again, you love to see it. Some difficult topics regarding that transgender representation, but still absolutely fantastic. Top read of this year. The last of the fantasy pile, but certainly not the least, was The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, and this is by Megan Bannon. I loved this book so much. Again, I think this might be one of my top reads of the year. It's a fantasy world where there is a section of the world that has demons, and there is a demon hunter, which is Heart, and there is an undertaker, which is Mercy, and these demons take over corpses. So the demon hunter has to go in and kill the demons, and the undertaker has to sort out the corpses of what the demons have left. Very gruesome at times, but yeah, it's a complete, again, grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers romance, and it's kind of like You've Got Mail, but fantasy version with letters. Oh, it was just so good. It just made me smile so many times, and I won't lie, I did cry as well during reading this, which is very unusual for me, but I loved it. God, I love this book. So yeah, The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, 100% would recommend. Fantastic. We're going to go on to the horror section, which I do have a fair share of horror books to talk about as well. First off, I'll talk about the one thriller that I had, and that was The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This was excellent. This was such a good book. Oh my god, was it good. Again, this is, I think, one of my top reads of the year. Absolutely brilliant. So it is about a huge house in the countryside, and people are invited, a selection of guests are invited to the house for a party, a ball, and during this ball, Evelyn Hardcastle is murdered. And the premise is that you are in this ball to try to find out what happened to Evelyn Hardcastle. But the reason it's called The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle is that every day the main character lives through the day in a different person's body. So for 7 days, they live through 7 different days through 7 different people and witness the event in 7 different ways, and it's just so good. It was so good. You just see different parts of the story, different things that happen throughout the house. You just get such an epic vision of what happened. I just loved it. So many twists and turns. I never knew where this book was going at all. Fantastic. Just so good. And the ending was just crazy. So yeah, 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Absolutely loved it. One of my top reads of the year. I then have 2 Darcy Coates books, which if you have been following me for a while, you will know Darcy Coates is my favourite author of all times. She writes horror, predominantly ghost stories, and I love ghost stories, so obviously she's going to be one of my favourite authors. But I got sent 2 arcs, which, oh my gosh, I was blown away by. I was so excited. So the first off, I got Gallows Hill. Loved this, even tabbed it. I was so excited to get an arc of this. I can't tell you how excited I was. It's about a woman who is given a winery as part of the will of her parents, who died very suddenly at the same time, very mysteriously, and she goes to the house and the winery has to take over the house and the winery, but there's a mystery behind what happened and there's terrible secret of the house, and it's so good. It was such a mysterious but scary novel. I loved it. And I loved all the characters, especially the people who already lived and worked on the winery. I loved all the characters. Just another 5 out of 5 Darcy Coates. She always does it, and I loved it. And then another one, which I think may be my new favourite. Oh, from Darcy Coates. Oh no, that's a big ask. I don't know. It's up there. It's From Below. This was so good. This was unlike anything she has written before. Basically, it is about a huge ship that sunk 100 years ago, in the 1800s, under very mysterious circumstances. No one knows what happened to the people on the ship. The communication was very strange by the end of the voyage, and it is split between 2 timelines, one during the ship sinking and the weeks leading up to it, and then another timeline in the present day, talking about a group of oceanographers and videographers going down to film a documentary about it. But it's very spooky, very terrifying if you're scared of deep ocean, which I am. So I found this so terrifying. Very, like they're diving in pitch black in a old sunken ship. And it was just so scary, and horrible things start happening down on the boat where they're isolated, they're hundreds of meters down and it's pitch black and all they have are the torches and a radio, and if the electricity stops working, you're literally in the pitch black in the middle of nowhere. It's so scary. I felt so tense reading this, honestly. So yeah, From Below. Really, really scary. It was scary anyway, the premise, but just the atmosphere made it 10 times more horrific for me. And I absolutely loved it. I loved this book. This was a top read of the year for me. And then Oh, this is such a beautiful book as well. I read The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. This was a beautiful gothic haunted house mystery. I love this. Wuthering Heights-esque, just with the gothic atmosphere. It was a lone house up on the moors on an isolated island. A woman has to go and look after 2 young children who have severe PTSD from some traumatic event in their childhood, and she's just very isolated in this big Victorian country house on an island in the middle of nowhere. Very isolated, very spooky. The children are weird too, like just really isolating and just fantastic. I absolutely loved it. A really good spooky book. Just spooky. Everything about this was just spooky and I loved it. So yeah, The Whistling. And then another top read for the year was Near the Bone by Christina Henry. I've read a couple of books by Christina Henry, and now that I think about it, another book that I read this year that I gave 5 stars was Horseman, again by Christina Henry. I loved both of these books. I think I liked Near the Bone more than I loved Horseman, but I loved them both. Horseman is a kind of spookier retelling of The Headless Horseman and Sleepy Hollow. Very fantastic. And then Near the Bone is about a couple that are isolated up on a mountain and a big beast moves in. This does deal very heavily with domestic violence and physical assault, though, as well, to the woman of the relationship. Very difficult to read if you have triggers about domestic violence, but at the same time it's so fantastic, and I love Mattie, the main character, so much. I cannot explain how much I loved Mattie, so I just loved her so much. Absolutely fantastic, so scary as well at times. I was so terrified for Mattie so many times in this book. I just kept thinking, like, how is she going to get out of this? Just kept me on my toes. I absolutely loved it. 5 out of 5. Now I have some graphic novels. George picked up for me No Longer Human by Junju Ito. Again, if you have been following some of my videos, you know that Junju Ito is one of my absolute favourites. I have 8 of his books, and I've read all 8, and all 8 have been given 5 stars. Yeah, Junju Ito is just fantastic. The graphic novels are so freaky. Let me find some good classic creepy. Yeah, there we go. There it is. Doesn't take long. That is Junju Ito in a nutshell, people. It's just so creepy, so freaky. This one was more of like storytelling. A lot of the other ones have kind of been short stories involving like certain characters, but this was one man's life basically from start to end, and just the horrific things that happen. Fantastic. All of Junju Ito is fantastic though, so I am very biased. I then also gave Attack on Titan 5 stars. This is the first omnibus, so this is volumes 1, 2 and 3. I absolutely love the anime, and so I figured I would love this, and I did. They're just like, the anime is word for word to the manga. So faithful. So Attack on Titan, definitely want to get the others. I'm pretty sure they're on Kindle Unlimited though, so I may have a look at that. Love it. So good. And then my last 2 physical books that I have. I got sent these and I absolutely loved them. It is the Sad Ghost Club 1 and 2. This is 1 and then this is 2, and I love both of them. They're both 5-star reads. I think I prefer the first one more, but still both were 5-star reads. Very sweet. Loved them. Absolutely loved them. There's more of a meaning behind what is actually depicted, and I like that. So the Sad Ghost Club, loved them. I then listened and read a few books on Kindle and listened on audiobooks, so I don't actually have physical copies of them. Oh yes, there was Thornhill. I got that on the library. I definitely spoken about this. I think I spoke about this in my horror video that I did in October. So yeah, if you're interested in hearing about Thornhill, feel free to check out that video. But it was just a really fantastic, quick read, crossed with, is like a graphic novel crossed with diary entries, 2 different timelines, 2 different little girls. Very sad. I felt very emotionally attached to both those girls. I loved it. I've been reading the saga volumes, and I'm up to volume 5, and volume 5 I gave 5 out of 5. That was the best one so far. Really weird, but just epic. Loved the saga series so far. I would definitely recommend those. Absolutely loved it. So those are all of the books that were like my top reads of the year. It wasn't including some of my rereads, just because I like to reread a lot of the books that I really love, so I haven't included those. And I got my new Oodie, which I'm over the moon about. I'm gonna go sit and read in it after I've edited this video. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you found some books that you may want to read in the future. And yeah, I will see all of you lovely people in the next one. Alright, bye guys.